Kalimera, kalispera, kalinichta. No matter where in this wild, wacky, and sometimes wonderful world you might be, thank you for making the Highbury Squad part of your day. It is the eve of the North London derby, but is all well in Arsenal land. Let's discuss, squaddies.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Welcome back live to Squad Central, squaddies, at ease, at ease. I'd like to welcome one of my favourite humans back to Squad Central, Miss Rebecca Lowe, host extraordinaire of NBC, the Premier League, the Queen of American television.
Oh, Soph, I'll take that. I'll take that every day of the week. Hello, my lovely. It is so lovely to see you.
Great to
I hope
see
you're doing okay down there in LA, and obviously everyone is. I'm in Northern California, for anybody that doesn't know, but really, really sending as many prayers and thoughts and love. Even that feels like that doesn't help at all. What else can we do? We can donate, which we have, and we just keep everybody in our thoughts. And
exactly.
It's rough.
And you've had your fair share of these experiences up north as well. It is brutal and heartbreaking, no matter what stature your life is. When it's your home, it's your home. So we're continuing to send our love and prayers and down here, and Tony and I are bagging up a whole bunch of stuff to send down up actually to LA today and stuff too. So I know what you're saying, squaddies. Where's David Ornstein? Now, let's not forget that this is the busiest time for the GOAT of transfers. And he sends his apologies. He feels terribly bad, but he did get a call from someone you might know, Rebecca.
I mean, the irony of this, Sophie, is that I'm off and NBC are making him work. And here I am with my cup of tea chatting to you, and he's on NBC today. So sorry about that.
Exactly. So he said, I got the call from NBC, and listen, guys, when your employer calls, you've got to take that call. And of course, it is the busiest time for David. He is going to be here on Thursday, right? So tonight we've ended up with Rebecca all to ourselves. We'll do the North London Derby post-game show tomorrow. And then on Thursday, David will be here live at Squad Central. All right. So for those of you tuning in who are expecting David, it was all last minute as well. So I'm not going to apologize because he's coming on Thursday. All right. So let's just rock and roll and talk football with the wonderful Rebecca. Evening to everyone in live chat. Make sure that you listen to our Chief Like Officer, Tammy, and hit that like button. We've got fans of the Lowdown, Rebecca. In the house.
By the way, I'm so bad at technology, but I just clicked on the chat thing, and I'm like, there's just loads of lovely people. Look at them all. That's so nice.
We do.
Look at that.
Yeah, we have a lovely community, and they adore you. Do you know what I realized today? Yeah. I realized that we first started talking about football in 2011, and then I realized that it was 14 years ago. Isn't that
oh my
when
God.
You were
2011 feels like yesterday.
You were at ESPN. You had just because you were at Setanta before ESPN.
Oh yes, I was. Yeah.
And you were doing ESPN in the UK.
That's right.
And I'll never forget my producers go, oh, we've got this lovely journalist reporter coming on. And that was, I was in LA.
Gosh,
and
that's crazy. That was 14 years ago. So
14 years ago. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going to take you back even further now. Okay.
Oh, no. Okay.
Host of the face of Premier League in the United States. I'm going to take you back to where it all started because it's transfer season. And I'm going to get some questions to you that we were going to talk about with David, and we'll talk to him on Thursday. Okay. But how about this? Let's go this far back, shall we?
Oh, CFAX. CFAX is the greatest of all time. 302 for the Premier League, 302.
302.
That was what the page was. Oh, look, it was. Look, because 303 and then 305. Yeah, I remember. I'd come home from school, straight on CFAX 302. What's happening in the Premier League? Let's go.
I remember, Rebecca, my mum, right? She would come into the living room and she's like, what are you doing just staring at CFAX? And I said, Mum, I'm not just staring at CFAX. And then even hitting the refresh button was tough because we're
not, we're not staring. We're waiting for the page to go over. And don't talk to me, because when the page comes, I need to read it, and then I will have to wait 8 pages for it to come back again. We're not staring, we're waiting.
Do you remember waiting? Oh my God, you're cracking me up. The 8 pages to wait for it to come back again. And I'll never forget when I'm sitting there and I see Arsenal seal 7.5 million Bergkamp sweep, which, by the way, today would be 150 million pounds for Dennis Bergkamp. And then you've got Chelsea to field Gullit as manager, Liverpool mulling over Collymore. But this was our general.
For £4.5 million Armstrong. That's Chris Armstrong from Crystal Palace. I remember that day. I was devastated.
That's your boy right there.
Didn't do well.
I know. And then this one from I don't know when, but
how do you find this? This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. What? This is mad. Oh my God.
And then there's one here. I think there was a Palace one. Oh, I didn't put it up, but there was another Crystal Palace one.
Not unlikely.
Yeah. But there was also one where David Dean's talking about the value of 5 million Platt signing is close for the Arsenal. This was how we accessed information. And it's incredible, the evolution and the journey of transfers. Firstly, as a fan, like, put your fan head on, and then we'll talk about it from a broadcasting point of view. Are you into this transfer season? Because we've got a lot of listeners that tune out if I do a transfer show. A lot of them love it, live it. And I think Arsenal fans, we have a huge base that is insatiable when it comes to transfers. What say you?
Not really. So I'm not, and that's because I'm a Palace fan. I mean, let's be honest. When you're looking at, let's be honest. We're not going to swoop 150 million pound anytime soon. If we spend 30 million, the bloke's better be good, and it rarely is. Thank you, Eddie and Ketia. But I do think.
Sorry about that.
The transfer window does tend to be more sexy for me as a broadcaster than me as a fan. It's not as sexy as it used to be. I feel like before the transfer window came into existence, and it was like free for all round, that was exciting, because you could literally be playing on a Saturday and then be bought on the Monday. Everybody was up for grabs. I didn't hate that. I understand the need that's a bit of a nightmare for everybody concerned, but I as a fan didn't hate that. Then when the transfer window came in, it was such a crazy, weird thing with the clock and everything. And I remember, like, I was on air when Robinho got bought by Man City, and obviously they all had that crazy. And so I think for a while there, it was pretty good. And we can all name some big transfers that happened in the January and the summer transfer windows, especially deadline day deals. But in the last 5 or so years, I don't know, it's just not as busy, I don't think. And for Palace, it's very rarely busy. And usually they're leaving, not coming. So no, I'm not like a crazy transfer window person. It's funny you say that about people tuning in, because I saw there was a new transfer window podcast that Talk Sport have brought out. And I thought, wow, I'd love to know who listens to that. Because speculation for me is like, there's not much point until no, it's not a Newcastle mug. Sorry, Barry. It's not. It's just, don't worry. It's just an R for Rebecca. Where is it? It's there. It's an R for Rebecca. It's not Newcastle. Amazing. I can do 2 things at once. But yeah, it's not for me really something that I get super excited about until a deal is done. And how many massive deals have we seen? A, full stop, and B, work out. I'd love to get a list, and I'm sure we've got one at NBC. I'm sure we've done a graphic about it. The top 10 most expensive transfers into the Premier League of all time. And like 1 of the 10 have been any good. So I try to not get too excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of, like, today I wasn't expecting it. And there was the news about Zubimendi, which comes from a really good source. And so I've always tended to be, until they're wearing the shirt, I won't believe it. But I got really excited because I love Zubimendi. Actually wanted us to buy him last summer. I think he's a really good player. He's not coming until the summer. But, it was news and it was excitable because I was not expecting it. But sometimes fans get kind of crazy about, we got to sign a striker, and we were...
So you've got to sign a striker. You've got to sign
Okay, talk to me about it.
I've said it for a long time, and I actually got told off a bit. I can't remember who by, one of the guys, Robbie or Tim. Somebody was like, you don't understand. I'm like, well, no, I don't understand. You're absolutely right. I haven't played the game. So I never for 1 second would ever think that I have an opinion that is worth more than somebody who's played the game. Okay. But I am still allowed an opinion. And when I, with an untrained eye, watch Arsenal for quite some time with Kai Havertz in the team, let alone as the false 9 or 9, it doesn't do it for me. I don't see them lifting the Premier League trophy without an out-and-out striker, and this has been the situation for so long. And it's annoying because it was a big conversation in the summer, and then it kind of went away when you started well. Or the conversation was like, oh, see, they don't need a striker. They're fine. Kai Havertz is so good. Everything's going to be fine. And then, of course, it's rearing its ugly head again. And it just because you think Arsenal should get a striker, I don't know. I feel like I felt that the whole way along. I never dipped down. They do. And Stephen Warnock, I remember, said it on our show as well. From day one, I know he said, I know people are going to shout at me and you all think Kai Havertz can do it. They need a striker. And you do. You need one. And now January's a nightmare to get one. So yeah. Are we just talking like, are you really going to win the league with Martinelli, Trossard? I mean, everyone else is injured. So I want you to win the league. Let me just state that before I get any. I want Arsenal to win the league, not because I'm an Arsenal fan, but because I think it would be great for football. Even better than Liverpool in the league. I think it would be great for football. I don't see how you do it this season without buying a striker, and I don't see who you can buy. Oh, here's a question. Sorry, I'm on one. I haven't talked about this.
No, go. This is. I've been off. You're here to speak. They don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you.
Oh no, I want to hear from you on this. So you bought Calafiori. How much was he? So
he was about. Correct me if I'm wrong. Squaddies was Calafiori about 30.
Okay, and Marino
25.
Oh, okay. So you're looking at about 55, 60 million quid for those two players. Neither of whom, in my humble opinion, have pulled up any trees this season, especially not Marino, really. Why not top that up by 15 million and have gone out last summer and spent 75 million on one striker? And I don't understand. And Arteta hasn't explained why, other than to say he has trust in who he has. So I don't get it. Explain
the problem. Okay, so
40 plus 35 apparently. There you go, 75.
Yeah, Calafiori. It's really weird because I think a lot changed for Arsenal after we lost to Manchester City at the Etihad. I've been saying for a couple of months now, something broke that day. I feel like mentally we thought we had them, and if we had them, we would win the league. And something snapped mentally that day, and also something changed with how Mikel plays. He
Absolutely.
discovered a defensive approach, and Clive Palmer from Arsenal Vision speaks about it far more eloquently than I do, as have other guests on the show. Now, the left back position has been horrific for us. Zinchenko, injured all the time. Tomiyasu, injured all the time. Mikel's not really sold on Kivior. But here we are this season with the emergence of Miles Lewis-Skelly, which for me has been one of the stories of the season. Pure magic, right? And Calafiori's injury prone too. He's got muscle injury again. But we needed cover, no doubt about that. Midfield, we needed cover, right? And I think the reason why he didn't dive into the market, Rebecca, is because last season we scored the most goals in our Premier League history.
And the squad,
they're sick of me saying it. I'm sure they are. And at some point, does that run out? But this is how he wants to play. He doesn't want to play. And Kai Havertz was actually bought as a midfielder, not a striker. And I think, and we're going to get to that part of it because I want to get your take on some social stuff as well at the end of the show. But I think he's misunderstood. You know how sometimes, public figures, pop stars or actors, or there's just some misunderstood people. And I think Kai's one of the most misunderstood footballers on the planet. And
do you think it's his body language? Do you think because his body language is so laid back, he looks like he doesn't care?
They used to say the same thing about Mesut, This guy doesn't care. This guy's lazy. This guy's this guy's that. But if you remember, Rebecca, and I don't know what the boys have been saying about this, but this time last year is when Kai Havertz hit form. It was after Dubai.
He changed his position and he played him up front.
Right. So I have faith in Kai because I think he's a mentally strong person.
So you think Kai could take you to the title?
I think that if we play our speed football and what got us here in the first place, and the reason we were able to challenge Manchester City for 2 seasons, I believe Kai could be on track this season to score 20 goals in the Premier League. Our problem is, and I don't know what you guys have been saying in the studio, we can't create chances. We're creating chances. We can't finish our chances, but we just don't have that killer pass. Everyone's off form at the same time.
They are. And I think your line about last season you scored more Premier League goals, I think you said, than you ever had before. That is a valid argument against my argument for getting a striker. Sure, of course, I understand that. But I also, my big concern, like you said, is why he's changed the way they play. I heard, I think it was Amy Lawrence said the other day, she used the word inhibited. You are playing inhibited. And I don't understand what's caused that. Is it because you played so brilliantly with this flair and this openness for 2 seasons and didn't win the title that he feels like, well, that didn't get us a title, so I need to try something else? It looks like it kind of looks like Arteta slightly lost faith in the way he wants his team to, that he doesn't think they can do it anymore, or the new ones can't do it. Something has changed. He needs to change it back. I mean, you guys in 2022, was it 22-23, that first season where you come off the back of a pretty not great season and you suddenly were just like, whoa, we are really good. Like, that was beautiful. And that was the season that really suddenly dropped off, right? And that was so wonderful to see. Now, I'm not in the camp of play amazing football and don't win trophies. I hate that, actually. I would take Palace not losing, but I would take Palace playing terribly every week if they won anything, literally, in my lifetime, at any point. But the point is that was still winning football in those 2 seasons. Yes, you missed out to a Man City who are no longer there. So it feels like the one season that if you just stuck to what you knew and what had got you so close before, this would have been the season you could have done it, because City aren't City. And he's changed it. And I don't get it. And they're not that good to watch. And of course, Odegaard missing out for 2 or 3 months was huge. That's where a lot of the creativity went. Now Saka's not there, huge. A lot of creativity's gone. But you've got to have more than just one player creating. Oh, it's exhausting. I'm not even an Arsenal fan. By the way, on Miles Lewis-Skelly, just one little thing. Miles Lewis-Skelly, who we talked about actually right at the beginning of the season. I remember coming on and he'd just come on. Like, I don't even think I got his name right that day, because I was like, Miles, like, there's a lot going on with this name. But Miles Lewis-Skelly, did you read the article about his mum? Can you get his mum on your podcast?
Would love to get her on here.
What an absolute legend, by the way. She just gives me so much like faith in humanity. Love her. But yes, okay, so that's what I think.
No, you make a good point.
I've been distracted. I'm sorry. I've been distracted by Archangel on the chat. Did Palace win the Zenith Data Cup once? Or I'm imagining you're not imagining it. I was there when Jeff Thomas went up to lift the Zenith Data Systems Cup. I was there. We beat Everton 4-1. It was at the old Wembley. I know I'm desperate for silverware. The ZDS Cup, I don't.
Archangel is one of our. He's our Aussie from down under. He tunes in at I know. I love these guys. They tune in at all hours. By the way, they're trying to steal Mateta from you, Bex. They. I
think you should go and get John Duran. That's right. Oh, you know who I think you should get? Brian Mbeumo. How has nobody bought Brian Mbeumo? He's 25 years of age. He scores goals like it's going out of fashion. The guy is right for the plucking. Brentford takes 75 million today. Go and get Brian Mbeumo.
There's a rumour today about Liverpool being tied to him. Let me be your David Ornstein.
Well, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I don't think they need anyone, do they? Liverpool, crikey, leave somebody for somebody else. Jesus.
Apparently they turned down 75 million for Nunes, which is nuts.
I mean, no. What's more nuts? Somebody paying 75 million for Nunes or Liverpool turning down 75. I'm not sure. Either way, that's not worked out. So I think Mbeumo to Liverpool, Mbeumo to Arsenal. I just feel like it's weird. He goes under the radar, and he'll be cheaper than John Duran. He'd be cheaper than John Duran, and he's a much calmer presence.
Yeah. I mean, I covered Duran a little bit when he was in MLS. There's a player actually that plays for LA Galaxy, Gabriel Peck, who I would love Arsenal to buy. And I think the way that Brighton just bought, oh my God, I'm having a fart. Diego, they just bought a play from Inter Miami. And of course, Almiron was one of the first that went. Gabriel Peck to me is like that 25 million, super talented, can cover for Saka on that right side. And, you made a good point about changing our style. And someone in the chat said last season, towards the end of the season, we went a little more defensive, but we still had our flair. One of the arguments that we've talked about on the show, Rebecca, is it feels like we're playing not to lose now versus to win. It feels like Mikel's gone from fearless Mikel to fearful Mikel.
Yeah.
Is that the vibe you get when you guys are doing the broadcast?
Yeah. That's such a good way of putting it, from fearless to fearful. He definitely, it feels like you guys have, because you've suffered quite a lot. I mean, over the last couple of seasons, you've had a lot of heartbreak. You've had a lot of big moments that haven't gone your way. You know, it hasn't quite worked out for 2 straight seasons, coming so close in different ways. And it feels like you're scarred. You know, it feels like the team, the squad. I just look at Declan Rice and I feel like he just looks, I love Declan Rice, absolutely love him, but he looks a bit scarred is really the only word I can think of. Even after the Man United game, he was kind of going around clapping, and he just kind of looks a little bit broken. I think it's a lot. You know, it's one thing people have talked this season about Manchester City. They've hit a wall. They're exhausted. When you win everything, it's just exhausting. I get that, right? And Pep's level of intensity is huge. But there has to be something said for a team like yours that has come so close 2 years in a row, and then this year to see Liverpool doing what they're doing. I mean, that takes a lot as a human to kind of come back from, I think. Yeah. And I just think it's almost visible in the way you're playing, in the way Arteta is. It's a bit concerning. And now you've obviously got the League Cup hurdle as well. And it's been a tough week, maybe one of the toughest since he's been in charge.
David Hillier said that on our show. He said, I fear for us going in third year, getting close twice. And yeah, players are tired and stuff. Do you know what it is too? I spoke after the show when we lost to Man United in the FA Cup. There's no joy. Arsenal have played with a lot of joy in the last 2 seasons, and confidence and bravado. And we reinstalled a little intimidation factor. And we feel like we had this whole package going. And this season, it feels like everyone's...
You know why? Expectation robs joy. That's what happens. So when you first had that first season when you were flying and you dropped off dramatically at the end, you'd come off a season that wasn't great. So there was no expectation. So you could play with joy. Second season, you were still riding that wave. There was still so much joy. But this season, it's like if you look at Liverpool, there was no expectation. Out goes Klopp, in comes Slot. Nobody even, I mean, some people had them outside the top 4. So they went into the season with no expectation. Therefore, they can play with joy. Expectation robs everybody of joy, unless you are so seasoned, I think, that you've done it so many times, like a Man United back in the day or a Man City in the last 10 years. But for you guys, that's exactly what it looks like. The joy has gone because the expectation was, well, you've got to do it third time. You've got to do it third time now. I mean, you've had 2 seasons, you've come so close, you have to do it now. Like, it's got to happen.
Yeah.
And then the expectation's only gone up when City have gone down. You know, because like, well, now you've got to do it. Like, you absolutely can't finish second to somebody else. So that's, and I think that must play on their minds, surely so.
You know, that's a great point. We've talked about, by the way, expectation robs joy would make a really good talking tea. I like that. And you're right. And I wanted to put this up because you guys talk about the managers a lot. And the other thing with the expectation, you know, you talk about Slot, Eddie Howe, the last 7 games, how he's turned Newcastle around has been so impressive. Maresca gone off the boil a little bit, but still, you got to give him credit. Yes, he's got a $1 billion squad and all that jazz, but he still has to come in and make a team tick where everyone was basically taking the piss out of them this summer and saying they'd fall off the wagon. And Nuno and what he's doing, we're on the same points as Forest, and he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for what he's doing. I think this has Arsenal fans rattled too. All of that.
I don't disagree, because Nottingham Forest, if you're a fan of Arsenal or Tottenham or Man United, you're thinking that they're imposters. You're thinking, I'm sorry, it's January. Why Nottingham Forest still, and they're playing Liverpool shortly. They could close the gap. I think it's the 3 points. That's insane. Now, if you're somebody like me, I love a bit of that, because I just go into the zone of like, imagine if it was Crystal Palace. Like, just maybe one day it can be. Like, you just go. So for that, I'm in love with the Nottingham Forest story. But I can totally understand if you're a fan of a big club who thinks they should be in the top 4, that is a real struggle. Newcastle United are fascinating to me. When the owners first came in and we all thought, well, that's it now. It's a big 7 now, not a big 6. And then, of course, it went so well, but then it dropped off, and Eddie Howe was a bit shaky for a while, and the PSR situation really hurts them, because I was concerned for a while there that the owners who've come in thinking they could make them into the new Chelsea and the new Man City now can't do that, might get bored, because if you've got a plaything that you can't really play with, then you might think, well, I don't want it anymore. I don't want the toy anymore. Well, I think they'll remain interested in Newcastle, the owners, as long as Eddie Howe keeps producing results, right? And then, of course, the more results you produce as Eddie Howe in Newcastle, the more money you get, because if you win the FA Cup or you get far in the League Cup, whatever, you get more money. Then you can spend it on more players. It's all about the revenue with the PSR. So Newcastle's fascinating to me, and again, an imposter for the fans of the traditional other clubs, the other big six. It's scary if you're a Tottenham or a Man United fan or an Arsenal fan, because those 4 spots, which might be 5, we know that come May, but those 4 spots are pretty open this season.
Yeah.
And that is a concern. You're right. I mean, Nuno at Forest for me is the story of the season so far. I'm delighted for them. I think he needs to be more delighted in everyday in his everyday demeanor. But I'm delighted for Forest fans.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I was on a Spurs channel last night, ahead of the North London derby. And I was asking, like, does it make you feel gutted seeing what Nuno's doing at Forest? And it's really weird because sometimes you just don't fit somewhere, right? A manager just doesn't fit. And clearly he didn't fit. But when you look at the fact that Conte didn't fit, Mourinho didn't fit, Nuno didn't fit,
somebody doesn't fit. Somebody else doesn't fit.
Somebody doesn't fit. I have a horrible feeling that Ange's I win a trophy in my second season, mate, it's going to come off. I really have this feeling in the pit of my stomach. I actually picked them to win the FA Cup, but yeah. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to talk about them.
I don't know. Right. Just very quickly. And for me, Ange is like, it's black or white. It's going to be hero or zero, isn't it? I don't think it's going to be grey. I don't think they're going to kind of get to the FA Cup semi-final or FA Cup final and finish like 7th. I feel like it's going to either win it, like you said, win a trophy, or absolutely fail. I don't think there's like a middle ground.
Rebecca, can I ask you real quick, because I feel like he sounds so sullen, and he was this breath of fresh air at first, and he just sounds such a misery guts, and he never looks, as an interviewer, and when you're doing the post-game stuff and you guys are on location, he'll talk like, listen, mate, we played really well, and I just thought we had a lot of the ball, but we just got to do better. We got to do better. He never looks anyone in the eyes. Does that bug you?
Understatement. Bugs me is an understatement. So I did that job for 4 years, right? Between 2009, 2013 for ESPN UK. And I had my fair share of tough interviews. Redknapp wasn't easy. Allardyce wasn't easy. Moyes was nearly impossible. Sir Alex Ferguson was the hardest for quite a while, and then it was okay. And that's just to name a few. That job, for me, the sideline reporter in the Premier League, is the hardest job in football, without a shadow of a doubt. I did not enjoy it. I did 4 years because my contract was 4 years. I was never going to sign again. In fact, before NBC phoned me, I've probably told you the story before, I had already discussed with my fiance and my dad that I was going to leave the business, because that role in 2009, 2013 was so thankless generally. And then add in being a woman 15 years ago, even harder, right? When I see Ange Postecoglou being interviewed, number one, I just feel really sorry for whoever's interviewing him. But I sometimes think, I wonder if, because the way he treats the interviewer, in my opinion, is not okay. I think he's downright rude. I think Pep is downright rude at times. Arteta's had his moments, but I don't think Arteta's ever been rude. I think Pep's been rude at times when he throws the question back, and he's like, he makes almost undermines every single question that's asked of him. And Ange at the moment is leading the way in rudeness, in my opinion. I wonder if we're getting to a point where this is not okay. And a reporter who would have serious courage to do this, I'm not saying they should or they will, I wonder if we're getting a moment where the reporter stops in the middle of the interview and just says, like the other day when he was asked about, he kept saying about if it's fair and equal, and if it's fair and equal.
Yeah.
And the reporter kept going back to him, and the reporter was so polite and is doing his job. And by the way, Ange, you signed up for this. This isn't just out on the training field coaching a team. When you're manager of Tottenham, you're also doing a million things, including a post and a pre-match interview. I wonder if a reporter might just say, you know what, Ange, I'm just here trying to do my job. I'm being respectful. I would really appreciate you would be respectful in return. I would love it. I mean, I would literally, like, the person would get a knighthood in my eyes. that, because why? Why should somebody be rude to somebody else on television who's just doing their job? It's not okay. Somebody at Tottenham, I think, should say to him, you're not coming across well. It's one thing being annoyed after you lose, and Arteta is a classic. He's not a great interview after they lose, but he's not rude. It's separate to being rude to somebody. And Pep does it as well. And they get away with it. And I'm sorry, I don't think it's okay in 2025 to be like that in public and get away with it. It's not okay.
And it's very passive. It's very passive aggressive. And I, real quick, like there was a few years ago, there was an MLS Media Day event, and it was when Kobe Bryant's drink Body Armor created a relationship with MLS, and we all got to interview Kobe Bryant. And the guys before me, we lined up, right? You get one question, and he shot his question, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Lakers, so are you Team LAFC or LA Galaxy?" And Kobe turned around to me and says, "Dude, I'm standing right in front of you. Is that the question you're going to ask me?" And all of a sudden, I broke out into a sweat. And I was thinking, oh my God, have I got the right question? Have I got the right question?
Oh my God.
And he wasted the opportunity, and one opportunity to speak to Kobe Bryant, and he asked him a question, and luckily my question went well and it was all right. But yeah, it's like,
I mean, there is a responsibility on the reporter for sure to ask questions that are fair and insightful and provoke a response, because let's never forget the role of a reporter. You're representing the fans. So when the reporter is asking Ange Postecoglou, so what exactly do you mean by that? Because the fans want to know. The reporter could give two hoots, I'm sure. There are fans want to know. So these managers have to remember, and the players, but it's normally the managers who are the prickly ones. They have to remember that the reporter is simply representing the people watching on television, the fans of their club, the people who pay his or some of his wages. And I think a lot of these people forget that. Pep Guardiola the same, only when it suits them, and that annoys me a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so I do want to touch on an issue that I think we've all experienced, and you experience it to different levels depending on where you are in the world and what you do, guys. We've talked a little bit about the Arsenal, and we've got Rebecca Lowe here, host of NBC. And Mikel Arteta showed his best side today in the press conference. He was asked about the abuse that Kai Havertz received. I just want to play this before we get Rebecca's thoughts.
I hesitate to mention it because we don't want to give these idiots the oxygen of publicity, but there's been some beyond pale social media activity towards one of your players since Sunday. How sad is it that this happens in football, that it should be a sport that we all enjoy?
It's incredible, honestly. And we really have to do something about it, because accepting that and hiding this, I think has terrible consequences. And it's something that we really have to eradicate from the game, because it's so cynical as well. And it's so dependent to a result of an action. And there is no any other story like this. When we play Ipswich, it was 27 of December at home. We win 1-0. Kai Havertz scores a goal, and the whole stadium after that is singing the Waka Waka. That's 20 days ago. Guys, what is the perspective? That's a really serious matter, guys. And it affects him, and it affects me, it affects everybody that is in the industry in the way. And we can accept, and we say that's our job, yes, but there are certain limits, and the line has to be drawn. And we put a lot of attention on that about technology and what is next in football. The next in football might be that this is prohibited. It cannot happen. That's it. That's what we should aim for.
Rebecca, I think this is one of Mikel's strongest moments in a press conference. I'm not going to repeat what was said. I put out a tweet saying I wouldn't, but just how it's disgraceful, despicable, abhorrent. Think of all the subhuman descriptions you could think of. And every Arsenal fan who's a true Arsenal fan, any football supporter, will stand behind Kai Havertz. Your thoughts, because this just keeps going on and on and on.
My thoughts are, I think Arteta came over really well there, and he actually didn't just say this is terrible and it needs to stop. He sort of even suggested that maybe that's the next thing for the game, that it is disallowed, that it is prohibited and it isn't allowed. The problem is and I've had plenty myself, down the years. The problem is how. It's a complete runaway train, social media. The Pandora's out the box. The horse has bolted. We ain't getting it back in the bottle. You can't monitor. Yes, you can monitor swear words. You can monitor racist words. You can monitor homophobia. You can monitor things like that in terms of they flagging up. But you can't monitor every word in the English language. And you can abuse somebody using none of those words, by the way. So I'm no technology expert, but I don't know if there's an algorithm in the world that can detect hatred unless it's so overt that it flags up on their systems. We're dealing with human beings, and it happens in every walk of life, not just football. And it also, the sad thing is it's not really that small, not just this situation, but it's not a small amount of people. It's millions of people that behave like this. How do you solve a problem of millions? How do you re-educate? I'd love to go to get one of these people who sent one of those to Kai Havertz, literally get them in a room and ask them why. But I don't know if that's going to do any good, because I don't know if they change. There's so much hatred in the world and hatred in people, and I don't know how you change that. And if you do change it, it certainly doesn't happen overnight. I also don't know, as Mikel Arteta rightly suggested, that it shouldn't be allowed. How do you stop that? I mean, TikTok's disappearing. I'm not on TikTok. I couldn't give two hoots if it disappears next week or this week or whenever it's supposed to disappear. I'm like, kind of good riddance. Not sure what it adds. I was thinking yesterday, so of all the people who spend hours scrolling TikTok, and I was thinking, what? They're going to have so much time in their life. This is amazing. If TikTok does go away, they're going to have like hours back. I mean, what a gift that is. Maybe they'll then realize what a terror social media does in terms of robbing you of so much of your life. I just think that we are so far down the road, unless they literally ban them all, which ain't going to happen because it's about money at the end of the day.
Yeah,
I don't know how you stop it, and it's a very defeatist answer from me, and I hope that he knows more than I do about how you stop it, but I don't see how you do. All I would say is, if I was Kai Havertz and I had a profile like that, if I was a Premier League footballer, I would go nowhere near social media. You earn enough money during the week. You don't actually need it. I understand there are people who need it for a job, to raise actors and actresses, maybe, so they can kind of show their work, as an example, right? Show their work on social media, and then you get jobs. Fine, I understand that. Footballers don't need social media. What do they need it for? All they do is post pictures of themselves mid-game like that. It's like pointless, absolutely pointless. If I were them, do you really need the extra money that comes from, your Gucci deal or whatever deal it is? I don't know. You gotta really decide if you really want to put yourself out there. If he deleted everything, and just using his as an example, if he deleted all of his social media, his life's going to get better instantaneously. I don't understand the argument against that, to be honest.
And a lot of players haven't they? So, yeah. All right, we're going to get you out on a fun quick fire. We got Rebecca here for another 6.5 minutes, people. Okay, so we're going to do, as it's your favorite part of the show, people, we're going to do Rebecca's Lowdown. All right. I missed the E on the end. Or did I? No. Is that how you guys spell it, with the E?
No, we spell it. We've done it perfectly.
That's all right. I don't know where my head's gone today. It's all over the place. Even my spelling's off, for crying out loud.
You got it.
Okay, we're going to do this. Your biggest surprise of the season so far? It might go back to Nuno, but what's your biggest surprise of the season so far?
I think you asked me this about
when we were on with Henry.
Yeah, and I said Chelsea at the time.
Yeah.
I could have gone Forest. Now I'm going to go Forest. I wasn't sure Forest would still be there, let alone second in January. I mean, they are second, aren't they? I haven't looked at the table for a week, but that's it.
They're joint with us, but yeah, they're second. They're
joint second with you guys. Okay, so you have a back goal difference, but I never even thought that in, where are we, January the 14th? So for me, Nuno, and also kind of like some of those players, Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Elanga, point to prove. I kind of love that. I love somebody with a point to prove. Nuno had a point to prove. That club has a point to prove, that they have to remind an entire generation of football fans that they were once massive. And I love that. There's no better place to watch football than the City Ground. It's a proper football club with a proper history, and not massively keen on the owner, but putting the owner to one side, I think the rest of it is joyous.
Come on, little Souvlaki with Marinaki.
I know, but I don't know about him.
No, I hear you. What's been your most joyous moment so far this season?
Gosh, this is hard. Joyous. I'm trying to think if Palace have made me happy at any point.
Well, the last-minute goal at Selhurst Park just a few weeks ago. Who was it? You?
Oh, I went mad. I went absolutely mad in the studio. Oh my God, my brain. Let me.
Was it? It wasn't against City, was it? Was it City? The squaddies will help. Don't worry. But that was a pretty good moment.
I should know this.
Beating Spurs.
My problem is I'm coming off the back of that was pretty good. I'm coming off the back of the Christmas break where I've had a week off after working basically every day in the whole world, and I struggle to like get my brain back into gear. But I'm trying to have a look. But it would have been basically, why can't I find it? Oh, here we go. Palace matches. It was. Well, it wasn't like the goal against Chelsea was pretty good. Mateta scored. No, you can't have him. That was late on, but it wasn't that one. Which one are you talking about? So
there was a game.
We haven't had a lot of good games. It was 2-2 against Man City, but we haven't had a lot.
Yeah, that's the game. I think. Didn't you score in the last seconds?
No.
All right.
We haven't had a lot of joy. But Palace continues just to bring me joy by being in the Premier League, so we'll go with that.
Okay. My least shocking thing that's happened so far this season.
Southampton being not great. Yeah, Southampton.
Not great, is it?
No, it's not great. I mean, they could go on to be the worst Premier League team in history if they don't get more points than Derby County back in the day. So I'm going with Southampton. That's a shame. I feel like they could have done more. Yeah.
Which gaffer is in the hot seat for you right now?
Oh, well, most of them have just been fired, haven't they? So I would say in the hot seat right now is going to be. It's hard because they've literally all changed manager. I don't know if we have a hot seat manager. You know who might be slightly in the hot seat, which kind of sounds ridiculous? Maybe Fabian Herzler a tiny bit, which by the way is ridiculous because they're right in 10th in the Premier League. But it's a funny club, as brilliant as it's run, and I don't think for 1 second that they're going to fire Fabian Herzler. They boo their own team at home. This is Brighton and Hove Albion, not my favourite team in the world, being a Palace fan. But that is a club that I remember going to watch at the Withdean Athletic Stadium when I used to work in the UK 20 years ago. And look where they are. I don't know why you're booing. You're 10th in the league. But if the fans are really not happy and not having it, he might be in a bit of trouble. Other than that, I don't see how anyone's on the hot seat because everyone's changed managers. Yeah,
and I think they'll stick with Ange. Okay, is there? We'll get you out. We're not going to talk. VAR so far for you. You've talked about it ad nauseum. So have our listeners. Squash that one. We've got 2 minutes left. Plot twist. Is there a plot twist to come, Bex?
I in the whole of the Premier League, I think there could be, and I think it could happen at the bottom maybe rather than the top. As much as I would like the top there to be a plot twist, I wonder whether something's happened at a club that everyone thinks is going to go really well, and it won't go really well. And I'm just worried about Everton. I'm just thinking the return of the Moisia, whatever they're calling him, what do they call him? The Moise, whatever they did. The Messiah. Moisia, that's it. He returns. Everyone's like, well, not everyone. I've heard a lot of Everton fans not happy about it. Don't think they can score goals. They just can't score goals. They were already good at the back. They were already fine defensively under Sean Dyche. I mean, I might be totally wrong. I just wonder whether they get rid of Sean Dyche, the steady Eddie that keeps teams in the Premier League. And the irony is that next season, David Moyes is walking them out in the Championship at that new stadium. Oh, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't want that to happen. I don't like it. But I could see maybe it certainly not going as well as everyone thinks. And often the one big team does drop, right, and gets into trouble. So maybe Everton for me.
Yeah, I picked them to go down at the start of the season. And it was hard for me to do that because, of course, we had a crush on Everton because of Super Kev. But they've gotten away with it for the last 2 or 3 seasons.
I know, but what do they say? If you circle the drain long enough, you usually go down.
Yeah. I still think there's a plot twist at the top. Call me romantic, Rebecca. I haven't given up hope yet.
I think that,
look, I'm still afraid of Manchester City. Maybe that's just PTSD. If there's any team that could just go on and win every single game until the end of the season, it's them. Liverpool haven't faced their adversity yet. like, I know they lost Jota. I know Alisson was out for a bit, but, you know, Arsenal and Man City have really gone through the mill so far this season. So I still believe that there's a plot twist at the top.
You've got to. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Are you on air this weekend?
I sure am.
Okay, good.
It's going to be big.
Good. We've missed you. You know what I do? I do the screenshot. Right. What time's that on? What time?
I know you need it, right? It can be a bit confusing. So you need it. Save it to your phone. I put it out every week. It's really important.
So good. Okay. So on air Saturday, back on NBC?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. And it's called Soccer. When's the next episode out?
I think it's out tomorrow. We've got Peter Sarsgaard, who is a big Premier League fan. From the movie September 5.
Oh my God, I love him.
He's so great.
Oh my God, Tony tomorrow. And I absolutely will watch anything that he's in. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm
so
obsessed.
he's our guest tomorrow, so tune in. And I talked to Gary. We've just finished recording it, and Gary's really good on whether or not he or Kyle Walker is the best ever Premier League right back. So you might want to tune in for that. It's quite good.
Okay, love that. And Tony's yelling in the background now. Hi, Rebecca. She's going to watch that episode too. I will.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for joining. Thank you, Squaddies, for joining in chat. I know David will be on Thursday. Okay, we'll be getting David Ornstein on Thursday. He had an assignment today. Rebecca, this was epic as per usual. Please follow Rebecca at Rebecca Lowe TV on the old Instagram. She's funny and she posts really good stuff about everything. And I've got a new hack for you that I'm going to send to you later today.
Oh, dude,
I will see you, Squaddies, after the North London derby. You guys take care. God bless. And don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them, Squaddies. Until tomorrow night. Let's go.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.